Kim Dokja was fighting a war against the ghosts of ancient kings, and he could not win it with a sword. So he reached into a 1,000-year-old battle and summoned its greatest hero to fight on his side. This was the Battle of Wangsanbeal, reborn, and Kim Dokja intended to make history repeat itself exactly as it was written, because in the real battle, his side had won. First, the stakes of the reenactment. The Battle of Wangsanbeal, Kim Dokja recalled, was a battle between the allied forces of Silla and the Tang dynasty, led by Yusin Kim, and the nation of Beech, led by General Gaibeek. Silla won the battle thanks to Guanchang's sacrifice, and it was the battle that took General Gaibeek's life. A young Warang named Guanchang had died in that battle, and his death had so inspired the Silla troops that they crushed Beech. That history was now a weapon. "There is no retreat," the enemy general roared, driving his incarnation forward. "Serve your king with unwavering loyalty." Character Wanjin Chu has activated the stigma, Beech Swordsmanship, Level 4. The incarnation of Gaibeek, a man named Wanjin Chu, fought with the doomed fury of a general who did not yet know he had already lost. But Kim Dokja knew how to turn the battle. "There are two ways we can turn the battle around," he thought. "The first is, the death of Guanchang's incarnation will boost the morale of Silla's troops, just as it did in history. But that path meant sacrificing a life. Then your kingdom will perish," he was warned. "And the second is to change history." "I'm going with the second option," Dokja decided. "Then why did you bother telling me?" the queen demanded. "I was giving you a chance," he said. Because Kim Dokja refused to win by throwing away Guanchang's incarnation the way history had. He would find another road to the same victory. And that road ran through the stars. He held up the relic Sangha had found. Ganpyeongui, a tool for astronomical observation devised in 17th century Joseon. Everyone is after the foreign demon decapitator, but this is actually the real deal. Because the humble disc had a hidden power. Activating Ganpyeongui's special ability, Echo of the Stars, the system announced. Echo of the Stars allows you to seek the help of a high constellation. The constellation can reuse your request, and the number of times Ganpyeongui can be used will be reduced when the constellation responds to your request. The astronomical instrument was a phone line to the gods, and Kim Dokja was about to place a call to one of the greatest heroes in Korean history. "I will call upon a constellation," he declared. Clang! Clang! The high constellations hear your voice flowing through the stars. But calling a god was not enough. He had to convince one to answer. And here Sangha's gift proved decisive again. "The great King Hongmu is looking at you," the system reported, as the spirit of a legendary general turned his attention toward them. Yusin Kim, the leader of the Warang. Kim Yusin, the greatest general of Silla, the man who had unified the three kingdoms, one of the most revered heroes in all of Korean history, was listening. But the great King Hongmu, at first, does not want to interfere in the current flow of history, the system warned. He has refused your request. The hero of Wangsanbeal did not wish to meddle. So Kim Dokja sent his most eloquent advocate. "Wait, can you hear me, sir?" Sangha called out to the constellation. "I know of your heroic tales. I've only read about them, but still. I understand that you want to respect the course of history, but some events never end even after they've been recorded. Don't you have regrets? Have you already forgotten the sacrifices of the many young Warang, and the people of Silla? History can't be changed, I know that. But if you were to help us now, you can still make a difference for those who are still here." Because Sangha was famous for her presentations at work, and she made the case of her life, appealing not to strategy but to the heart of an old hero who had watched his young soldiers die. The great King Hungmu is listening to the incarnation, Sangayu. Come to think of it, Sangha was famous for her presentations at work, Kim Dokja thought, watching her move a god with words. The great King Hungmu closes his eyes. And then, the great King Hungmu accepts your request. Flash. Spark. You have received the constellation the great King Hungmu's protection. Power flooded into an incarnation, and the hero of Scylla walked the battlefield once more. Ugh, my body, the possessed man groaned. It feels as if my heart's about to burst. The constellation, the last hero of Wangsanbeil, has possessed his incarnation. And he rose, and he spoke the name that history remembered. I am Yusin Kim, he declared, the 15th leader of the Hwarang. The greatest general of Scylla stood on the battlefield of Gwangwaman, summoned across 1,000 years to fight for Kim Dokja. And now history itself became a weapon. Long time no see, Gaibik, Yusin Kim said to his ancient rival. G General, the enemy incarnation stammered, recognizing the hero who had beaten him 1,000 years ago. Because the historical record bound them both. Historically, Gaibik's army never once lost against Yusin Kim, the system noted. That is, until the Battle of Wangsanbeil. And in that battle, Gaibik never got a one-on-one fight with Yusin Kim. It's recorded that Yusin Kim intentionally avoided fighting Gaibik head-on. The history was clear, Gaibik could never defeat Yusin Kim, and could never even reach him. And so, in this reenactment, the incarnation of Gaibik found himself powerless, unable to approach the hero of Scylla, chained by the very record of his own defeat. Then Yusin Kim called his army. I will honor the souls that have fallen in battle, he said, and set me right the course of history. The power of the constellation artifact, Blue Dragon Sword, has entered unbreakable trust. Whoosh! I call upon the men. The stigma, calling all Hwarang, has been activated. And out of the earth they rose, the skeletal remains of the dead Hwarang, the young warriors who had fallen at Wangsanbeil, answering their general's call across a millennium. Roar! Attack! What the hell are these skeletons? The enemy screamed as an army of the honored dead surged across the battlefield. The souls of Yongwayangdo, the fallen Hwarang, marched again for Scylla, and the tide of the battle turned exactly as history had decreed. But there was tragedy in it, too, and Kim Dokja felt it. Because the incarnation of Gaibik was trapped in a role he could not escape. You will perish along with your incarnation if he dies, Yusin Kim warned the constellation possessing Wanjin Chu. Why have you possessed your incarnation? Have you forgotten about the rule of plausibility? The enemy general was so deeply immersed in his ancient identity that he was dragging his modern host toward the death history demanded. That's right, Kim Dokja realized. Gaibik seems to be unreasonably immersed in his incarnation. Yusin, the trapped general pleaded, you must not know anything about this world. This world, Dokja thought. How unfair is it, that I cannot come near you even in a fake stage such as this. I would have liked to duel with you just once. Even the ghost of Gaibik grieved the fight history had denied him, longing across 1,000 years for a single honest duel with the rival who had bested him. And Yusin Kim answered him with honor. People may call Yusin Kim a coward, the record said, but he was all the more powerful because he knew the risks, and he could win thanks to his nonchalance. Wait, General, the possessed man said, I cannot kill him myself. I am under an oath. Because Kim Dokja, wearing the crown of the king of no killing, could not directly take a life without losing everything. Is that so? I understand, Yusin Kim said. But do not worry, the stars will honor your commitment. I will see you again, Gaibeek, on the far side of the galaxy. It was a farewell between two ancient enemies, spoken with the strange tenderness of men who had defined each other across history, one honoring the other's fall even as the record demanded it. And so the reenactment reached its written end. The battle resolved as it had 1,000 years before, Scylla victorious, Beach fallen, the incarnation of Gaibeek defeated not by Kim Dokja's hand but by the weight of history itself. Dramatization has come to an end, the system announced. You have experienced the Battle of Wangsanbeil. You have received 1,000 coins as a reward. And crucially, the effects of King of No Killing have been retained due to the indirect nature of the killing. Because Kim Dokja had not struck the killing blow. He had summoned history to do it, and so his crown remained intact, his vow unbroken. He had won an unwinnable battle without becoming a killer. There was no time to rest. 3 minutes remaining until the protection wears off, the system warned. Sir, someone called, we don't have much time left. Let's head north. I have already sent the men of Yomweangdo there. The borrowed power of the great King Hongmu was fading, and Kim Dokja had to move before it left him. He had turned a war of ancient kings into a reenactment he controlled, calling down the greatest general of Scylla to win a battle 1,000 years in the making, all without spilling a drop of blood by his own hand. And the true prize still waited. Main Scenario 4, the king's qualification, the system reminded him. Clear condition, occupy the ruler's throne on the main street of Gwangwaman. Time limit, 8 hours. Reward, 10,000 coins. Only those who have completed the hidden scenario can take part. The king who occupies the ruler's throne will be given absolute command over the other kings. The throne of Gwangwaman, the seat of the one true king, still stood empty, and whoever claimed it would command all the other kings of Seoul. Let's go collect some flags, Kim Dokja said, gathering his people. Kim Dokja had summoned a legend across 1,000 years, won the Battle of Wangsanbeil without lifting a blade, and kept his crown by letting history strike the final blow. The War of Kings was reaching its climax, the throne of Gwangwaman waited to be seized, and the tyrant king and the fake author were still marching toward the trap he had set. The loneliest reader in the world commanded the honored dead of Scylla, an unbreakable resolve in his heart and the whole story in his head. His story, as always, was only just beginning. Kim Dokja had just won a battle 1,000 years in the making, and the greatest general in Korean history wanted to become his patron god. It was an offer any survivor would kill for. And Kim Dokja turned it down. Because the reader was hiding a secret even from the constellations who worshipped his exploits, and that secret was worth more than any god's blessing. Now, with the War of Kings closing in, he would descend into a dungeon of living statues to claim a legendary blade. The reenactment had made him stronger. Your brown flag has absorbed the contribution points accumulated in the brown flag, the system reported. Your brown flag has evolved into a purple flag. You can now use the skill of the purple flag. Each victory climbed the color ladder, and Kim Dokja's flag had reached purple, one step below the black flag of the one true king. But there's something strange about you, the great King Hongmu observed. You've maintained your sanity even after hearing my voice. Because most incarnations were overwhelmed by the presence of a high constellation, and Kim Dokja simply was not. Well, I am rather mentally stable, he said. Truth be told, usually I feel faint when I hear the voice of a constellation. And then the great hero of Scylla made his offer. I would like to be your supporting constellation from this world with you, the great King Hongmu said. If it's okay with you. It was an extraordinary honor. Kim Yusun, one of the most revered figures in Korean history, offering to become Kim Dokja's personal patron. And Kim Dokja refused. "I'm afraid I must refuse," he said. Because the reader had a reason no god could guess, he was not looking for a patron. He was following his own hidden path, and a supporting constellation would only bind him to another's will. "Why is that?" the constellation asked, surprised. "Surely you have seen the might of my power. My stigma will make you the most powerful incarnation of this world." "This isn't the age of the three kingdoms, General," Dokja thought. "Considering your age, you should get some rest." He turned down the strength of a legend, and the constellations watching could not understand why. "But that is what you are meant to do," they murmured, baffled by the unremarkable man who refused a hero's blessing. He also freed the incarnation the general had possessed. The borrowed body of the man the great King Hongmu had inhabited was still trembling, and Kim Dokja would not leave him enslaved. "Get out of my body," the man cried as the possession lifted. Personal skill, the fourth wall, has been activated. The blessing of the constellation connected to you via the bond of the stars has been removed. "Just what," the freed man gasped, "are you?" "The great King Hongmu is puzzled by your power. The great King Hongmu will keep a close eye on you from now on." Even in refusing a god, Kim Dokja had made a powerful ally curious, and curiosity, in the world of constellations, was its own kind of protection. There was a warm farewell, too. The Queen of Silla, the actress Jaewon Min who had tried to buy him, took her leave. "Friendship grows out of trust," she said, "this is a saying that the Hwarang live by. Next time we'll meet as enemies." "I thought we were on the same side now," someone said. "That's what usually happens on TV." The ancient queen departed with a knowing smile, and Kim Dokja had turned yet another rival into something almost like a friend. The king of beauty, will she be a benevolent king this time around, he wondered. We should also look into Songguk. Okay. Then came the reckoning of the board. "How many people entered so far?" Kim Dokja asked. 9 kings, including the tyrant king and the first disciple. "And their flags?" 7 purple flags and 2 brown flags. 2 of the purple flags seemed much darker than the others. He studied them, and understood. That must be the tyrant king and the first disciple, he realized. He's much more useful than I expected. Good. 9 kings remained in the war, and the 2 most dangerous, the tyrant king and the deathless plagiarist, still marched toward the trap he had laid. But first, the treasure. Kim Dokja led Sangha and Gilliang to the National Palace Museum of Korea, where a legendary weapon waited. Only Sangha, Gilliang, and I will enter, he decided. You 2 can wait outside. Are you sure? Yes. I only need 3 people right now. Because the museum held a hidden trial. A new hidden scenario has arrived. Hidden scenario, relic of trials. Category, hidden. Clear condition, clear a relic dungeon of your choosing. Reward, 500 to 5,000 coins. Penalty for failure, death. And it offered a choice. Choose the dungeon you want to enter. 1-man dungeon, the room of Nagai. 3-man dungeon, the room of the copper acupuncture men. 7-man dungeon, the room of the dragon jar. I will choose the 3-man dungeon, Dokja said, the room of the copper acupuncture men. Because he knew exactly what waited in each, and the 3-man room was the path to the blade he wanted. Flash. They entered, and the room came alive. Entering the 3-man dungeon. The copper acupuncture men, level 7 clones. Rows of copper statues, ancient models of the human body once used to teach acupuncture, now animated into deadly guardians. Roar. Thud. The statues attacked, and the ordinary approach failed. What do we do about these statues, Dokja? someone cried. They won't take any damage. Because you could not simply hit a copper statue. Look closely at their bodies, Kim Dokja instructed. Do you see the inscriptions? You'll see that the acupuncture points have different colors. And here's Sanga's knowledge shown once more, reading the ancient markings on the copper bodies. Some will paralyze them, and some will even kill them. Puncturing these points will yield varying effects. The statues could only be beaten by striking the exact acupuncture points marked on their bodies, each color a different effect, paralysis, silence, or death. Stab. Kim Dokja drove his blade into the killing point of the first statue, and it worked. The first copper acupuncture man has been slain. Now that you know how it works, let's get this over and done with. There are 99 copper acupuncture men remaining. 99 copper guardians, each requiring a precise strike to the right point. Whir. Whoosh. The three of them moved through the room like surgeons, Sanga reading the inscriptions, Kim Dokja and Giliang striking the marked points, statue after statue falling as they solved the ancient puzzle of the acupuncture bodies. And there was a bonus buried in the trial. You have obtained the skill, pressure point, as a special reward. Good, I got the skill that I came for, Dokja thought. The dungeon had given him exactly what he wanted, a new skill and a path forward. You have cleared the 3-man dungeon, the system announced at last. You've each been awarded 4 ancient coins for clearing the dungeon. 4 ancient coins each, 12 between them. And those coins were the key to the real prize. Now we'll enter the hidden dungeon, Kim Dokja said, where we can obtain the 4 demon decapitator. Didn't you say we didn't need that? Someone asked, recalling his earlier dismissal of the legendary sword. We're not going there for the item, he admitted. Because Kim Dokja's true target was not the blade itself, but what lay in the room that held it. The hidden dungeon demanded a toll. You must spend 10 ancient coins to enter the hidden dungeon, the system declared. Give me 3 coins each, Dokja said, pooling the group's earnings. I will use 4 of mine, so we'll have 10 in total. The 4 demon decapitator is in a hidden dungeon within this hidden dungeon. Those who have made it this far have already proved themselves worthy. He fed the 10 ancient coins into the ancient lock. Click. Click. And the deepest door opened. But even now, the shadow of the war weighed on them. Because to win the king's qualification, Kim Dokja would have to hunt the other kings, and that meant killing. We're going there to hunt the kings who are after it, someone said. We're going after their flags then. I guess we'll have to kill them. And Sanga worried, because Kim Dokja had never killed anyone, and his crown depended on it. He must have already noticed that I haven't killed anyone until now, Dokja thought. I can see why Sanga is worried, but this isn't a game, Giliang, someone reminded the boy. You have to be careful. Yeah, I know, don't worry about it. Even as he descended toward a legendary weapon, the reader carried the weight of his vow, the promise not to become a killer, the crown that would shatter the moment he broke it. And there was a deeper dread beneath it all, the same one that had haunted him since Gwangwaman. Once we walk past that door, Kim Dokja knew, Sanga will realize that the world we once knew is no more. Because the further they went, the more the line between the real world and the novel dissolved, the more the people around him risked becoming characters, the more the apocalypse rewrote reality itself. He carried that fear down into the dark, past the ancient lock, into the room that held the blade. Flash. Creak. The door opened, and firelight spilled out. Crackle. Crack. Flames danced in the deepest chamber, blood staining the floor, and the system delivered its final word. You have entered the room of the North Star. Kim Dokja stepped into the burning dark, Sanga and Giliang at his side, a legendary weapon somewhere within and a trial waiting to be faced. He had refused a hero's blessing, solved a dungeon of living statues, and pressed deeper into a world where reality itself was coming apart. The War of Kings raged above, the throne of Gwangwaman waited to be claimed, and the loneliest reader in the world walked into the room of the North Star with an unbreakable resolve and the whole story in his head. His story, as always, was only just beginning. Kim Dokja was a king who refused to kill, and in a war of kings, that was supposed to be a fatal weakness. But the reader had a plan for every enemy, a philosophy that shamed every tyrant, and a warning about a treasure so tempting that greed itself would destroy the men who chased it. This chapter would test everything he believed about leadership, about killing, and about the terrible cost of protecting the innocent, because to keep a child's hands clean, someone else would have to get theirs bloody. The room of the North Star was a slaughter waiting to happen. Crackle. Crackle. Fire lit the chamber, bodies littered the floor, and the men of rival kings turned on Kim Dokja's group the moment they appeared. "Hey, you," one sneered, "who's your king? Is it you, or is it that woman you're with? I doubt it's that kid." Slash. Kim Dokja answered with his blade, moving so fast the enemies could not track him. "How is he so fast?" one gasped. Splat. Thud. He cut them down, and a few constellations urged him to take immediate action, hungry for the show. But Kim Dokja fought to disable, not to kill, because his crown depended on it. And here came one of the most quietly heartbreaking moments of the whole war. Because Giliang, the gentle boy who spoke to insects, tried to do the killing himself. "Wait, I'll do it, Giliang," someone cried. "Still, let me." But it was Sangha who stepped forward and took the blade from the child's hands. "I'll do Giliang's job from now on," she said. "Will you be all right?" "I'll be fine. I can do it better." Because Sangha understood what Kim Dokja understood, a child should not have to become a killer to survive. Something like this will keep happening, she thought, steeling herself. So she chose to carry that weight instead, to stain her own hands so that Giliang's would stay clean. Spurt. It was not heroism in the loud sense. It was the quiet, terrible sacrifice of an adult choosing to bear the horror so a child would not have to. "I don't mind doing it myself," she said. And Kim Dokja, who refused to kill and could not always protect everyone from the necessity of it, watched the woman he trusted most take on the darkest burden in the group. Then came the clapping. Clap. 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 A man emerged from the shadows, applauding, and he was no ordinary survivor. "What is it?" Dokja asked. "Please, calm down, I'm not here to fight you." The man introduced himself with the smooth confidence of a recruiter. "I see that you're quite skilled," he said. "You've wiped the entire Chungjiangno group without any passive skills." He had been watching, impressed, and he had an offer. But first, he spoke of the Tyrant King. "Have you heard of the Tyrant King? He is the most powerful king in the northern Seoul area. People are already saying that he will be the one to sit on the ruler's throne. The Tyrant King, the most powerful. The favorite to claim the throne of all Seoul." And here Kim Dokja gave the philosophy that defined him, the belief that separated a king from a tyrant. "But here's what I think," he said. "Although he's strong, the Tyrant King will never be able to occupy the ruler's throne. He may be strong, but he's no leader. Because raw power was not the same as the right to rule. A true king should attend to the needs of his people above all else," Kim Dokja declared. "The king I follow is someone who can do exactly that. That's why so many incarnations follow him. I am certain that he will be the one to take over the ruler's throne." It was a vision of leadership built on service, not fear, on loyalty freely given rather than terror imposed. The Tyrant King ruled through cruelty. The king Kim Dokja believed in ruled through devotion, and that, the reader insisted, was the only kind of king who could truly hold a throne. The recruiter revealed his true nature. His king must have entered one of those doors too, Dronzer realized. What is it that you're trying to say? You want me to join you? And the reason he's still here is... Huh, the man laughed, I'm just here to make a suggestion. Would you like to form an alliance with us? To act as a recruiter? Why should we? Think about it. What will happen if a madman ends up with the legendary sword, and in control of Seoul on the ruler's throne? Don't you think we should stop that from happening at all costs? He was fishing for allies against the tyrant king, and Kim Dokja listened, filing away every word. But this recruiter was dangerous. His name was Sangyang Cha, and his character summary revealed a chilling attribute. Sangyang Cha has activated the skill, mind reading, the system warned, as the man tried to peer into Kim Dokja's thoughts. Gungi's stigma, mind reading, allowed the user to see the target's attribute window. For example, he'd see this for a kind-hearted person, a pushover devil, or a backstabbing devil. That's how the skill works. But when Sangyang Cha turned his mind reading on Kim Dokja, the results stopped him cold. A devil who should not be messed with. Sangyang Cha has learned that you are a devil who should not be messed with. A devil, the man stammered. What, really? There we go, Dokja thought, this is interesting. His fourth wall had once again disguised his true nature, presenting him to the mind reader as something too dangerous to touch. No, wait, Sangyang Cha backpedaled, I must be mistaken. Yes, listen to your constellation. I guess Gungi doesn't want to fight me. Phew, you startled me, the recruiter said, recovering. Why do I feel he's slightly disappointed that I wasn't labeled a devil? And he introduced his own patron and his assistant. My name is Seong Han, said the man beside him. I am Mr. Sangyang Cha's assistant. Is his constellation Wangyan since he's with Gungi? Because Sangyang Cha's supporting constellation was Wangyan, the founder of the Goryeo dynasty, and his assistant served the historical rival Gungi. Even the alliances of the War of Kings echoed the betrayals of ancient Korean history. Then the full board of kings was revealed, and it was staggering. This is a fight to claim what is rightfully ours, a voice proclaimed. Each one of you will be remembered as a warrior who fought to write a new chapter in history. And they gathered, the kings of Seoul, each an incarnation of a legendary figure. The coward king, Jaehyung Yun. The brawl king, Biko Kim. The earth dragon king, Tizonggu. The Mithraea king. And the tyrant king, appearing in 3 bodies at once, 3 of him, an avatar of terrible power. Roar. Their armies filled the streets of Gwangwamun, and the war for the ruler's throne reached its full and terrible scale. And it was not only Korea. The fourth scenario, Kim Dokja knew, was created for the historical constellations of the whole world. In Japan, Nobunaga Oda and the other heroes of the Sengoku period were at war, using their incarnations. In England, Richard the Lionheart, Henry VIII, and others were clashing as well. Just until a few months ago, they used to live in a democratic country, someone marveled. This is exciting, I feel as if I'm a character in a wuxia novel. A wuxia novel. Across the entire planet, the ghosts of history had risen through their incarnations, kings and conquerors and generals fighting to write new chapters in a story that had swallowed the real world. The apocalypse had become a stage for every legend humanity had ever remembered. The Earth Dragon King caught Kim Dokja's attention. I think that man's constellation might be Jaehyung, he reasoned. I once read that the later Beach King was birthed by an Earth Dragon. An Earth Dragon, meaning, earthworm. The other kings of that period called Jaehyung to mock him. Even Sanga's history knowledge placed the pieces, identifying each king by the ancient figure they embodied. He's one of the few noteworthy people in this group. The War of Kings was a living history lesson, and Kim Dokja and Sangha read it like a book they had both studied. But the deadliest trap in the whole scenario was not a king. It was a treasure. Our target, the tyrant king, entered the third door, Kim Dokja explained. So that's why the lobby was full of dead bodies. 2. Innocent kings looked at the hands of the tyrant king who was after their star jewels. The tyrant king must have killed 2 other kings here and taken their star jewels, which means that if I deal with the third door, I'll be able to obtain all 7 star jewels, and get my hands on the Star of Greed, the reward item of the Room of the North Star. And here Kim Dokja exposed the oldest trick in the book, because he had read 1,000 stories built on it. You know how there's always a mysterious treasure map, he said, that guides you to a remote location, and it says that a powerful sword lies hidden in a stone chamber, whoever wields the sword shall become the most powerful in all the land. A common cliché of the genre. You must have read a few wuxia novels, Dokja. I've read quite a lot. But there's always a twist to that cliché. It turns out that the treasure map was fake all along. Because the fake treasure map was bait. The warriors who came after the treasure fall into a trap, and the one who planned it quietly gets his way. The situation we're in right now could very well be just that. It was a possibility, but I would be disappointed if it was. A cliché like a fake treasure map is trite. Kim Dokja saw the whole scheme laid bare. Someone had dangled a legendary sword to lure the greediest kings into a killing ground, and only a reader who knew every cliché could see the trap for what it was. And the confrontation with the fake author sharpened. The first disciple, the plagiarist who had stolen the beginning of the story, kept circling Kim Dokja, and the reader would not let his theft stand. If an author uses such clichés just because they're tried and true, Dokja said, I'd say they should be ashamed to call themselves an author. Well, this isn't a novel we're talking about. I know that we're not characters in a novel. But what if I told you there really was an author who wrote everything that's happening right now? Sorry. What would you do if you were the author, Dokja? Well, I haven't really thought of that, since my name is Dokja. I don't think you'll be any different. You'll end up resorting to the same clichés, to provide your readers with such cheap thrills. What's gotten into you? You sure sound like an author. I'm not saying that all clichés are bad, Kim Dokja pressed. I'm only saying you should never plagiarize. Plagiarize? Yes, plagiarize. Well, all stories are the same, with only minor differences in details. Could you really call that plagiarizing? And here Kim Dokja drew the line that mattered, the line between honoring a story and stealing it. I would do things differently, he said. Do things different? How? For example. Because to Kim Dokja, the difference between a true author and a thief was everything, and he would not let the plagiarist pretend they were the same. Like this. Slash. The blade came out, and the confrontation turned violent. Ha, the fake author gasped. Aha. Whoa, what the hell? Because Kim Dokja had shown him the difference between copying a story and writing one, in the only language the War of Kings understood. This is interesting, Dokja, the plagiarist laughed even as he fell, delighted and unnerved in equal measure. There's no point in hiding anymore, is there? Plop. The mask of the fake author cracked, and the truth spilled out into the burning room. The system laid out the final stakes. Main Scenario 4, the King's Qualification. Clear condition, occupy the ruler's throne on the main street of Gwangwaman. Time limit, 8 hours. Reward, 10,000 coins. Only those who have completed the hidden scenario, the King's Path, can take part. The king who occupies the ruler's throne will be given absolute command over the other kings. And the throne had a requirement. The one worthy of the throne shall be braver than the rest. The throne does not want a weak king. You must have at least a black flag in order to sit on the throne. The black flag, the crown of the one true king, was the only key to the ruler's throne, and Kim Dokja was climbing toward it. Kim Dokja had watched Sangha take up the burden of killing to spare a child, face down a devil of a recruiter, and shamed a tyrant with a vision of true leadership. He had read the whole board, the 7 kings of Seoul and the historical war raging across the world, and seen through the fake treasure map that would destroy the greedy. Now the fake author stood exposed, the star of greed waited in the room of the North Star, and the ruler's throne of Gwangwaman demanded a black flag from whoever dared to sit upon it. The loneliest reader in the world stood in the burning dark, an unbreakable blade in his hand and every cliché in the world memorized. His story, as always, was only just beginning. Everyone believed the tyrant king was the most powerful ruler in Seoul, the favorite to claim the throne of all kings. They were wrong. Because there was one king stronger than all the rest, a king who had been quietly conquering the city while everyone else fought over scraps, and his name would send a chill through Kim Dokja's heart. But before that revelation, there was a plagiarist to expose, a con artist to unmask, and a legendary sword that turned out to be worthless. The fake author would not stop defending his theft. "I spread your plagiarized novel," Kim Dokja accused him. "My prophecy is not plagiarized," the first disciple snarled. "Don't you dare compare my masterpiece to that trash." "So you admit that you've read the original novel," Dokja said, and the trap closed. "Damn you," the plagiarist cursed, realizing he had confessed. Because there it was, the man who claimed to have authored the revelation had just admitted he'd read 3 ways to survive the apocalypse. He was a thief, and now he knew that Kim Dokja knew it. "The cliché you spoke of will begin soon," he threatened, and the battle erupted. Slash. Whoosh. Splat. Blades and blood in the burning dark, the fake author and the reader tearing at each other over the difference between stealing a story and writing one. But the true threat of the chamber was the tyrant king, and he arrived like a god demanding worship. "Raise the palanquin," his men cried, carrying their ruler forward on a litter. And Kim Dokja read the source of his power at a glance. Of course, he thought. No wonder he's so strong. He's even using so many packages. Because the tyrant king had not earned his strength through scenarios. He had bought it. And unlike the original novel, he even has the hidden item, the 3-wheeled ring. He had acquired power the way a spoiled customer buys advantages, stacking package after package, ring and relic and cheat. It must be true that he has the prophets working for him, Dokja realized, because such shortcuts required foreknowledge, and foreknowledge came from readers. The Dakibi will question his plausibility the moment he steps out of line, Kim Dokja knew. A king who cheated too openly would draw the same audit that had once hounded Kim Dokja himself. And the tyrant king was as cruel as his name. "You lowly insects," he sneered at his own followers, and cut them down when they displeased him. Slash. He killed his own men without hesitation, a ruler who saw his people as tools to be discarded. And they call themselves kings, Kim Dokja thought with contempt, watching the tyrant butcher his own. How pitiful. It was the exact opposite of everything Kim Dokja believed a king should be. Where the reader would die to protect his people, the tyrant king murdered his for sport. Yet the tyrant fancied himself a hero reborn. "I will write a new chapter in this land's history starting today," he proclaimed, wreathed in fire. "I am not afraid of the past. I am the Yin Samson, young E. Yes, I was a tyrant, but that side of me is no more." He was trying to rewrite his own legend, to shed the name of tyrant and become the supreme king of a new age. But you won't have your way, Kim Dokja thought. Because a man who slaughtered his own followers could call himself reformed all he liked, the throne itself, Kim Dokja believed, would see through him. "It will be my cliché that wins in the end," the tyrant boasted. "I see that you're all busy fighting," Dokja answered coolly, unimpressed by the fire and the fury. Then the system unveiled the second qualification, and it narrowed the war to a knife's edge. Ding! King's qualification. The one worthy of the throne shall be braver than the rest. The throne does not want a weak king. You must have at least a black flag in order to sit on the throne. And here was the crucial limit: only a limited number of kings can challenge their claim to the throne. For your information, the number of kings that can participate in the challenge will be 5. 5. Out of everyone, only 5 kings could contest the ruler's throne. There's still 14 of us, someone gasped, counting the rulers present. And the number of kings in the hidden dungeon is 12. That many? The board was crowded with kings, and it had to be thinned to 5 before the throne could be claimed. And then a hidden player revealed herself, and she was the most dangerous con artist in the whole war. Because the fake King Swyong Han had been hiding in plain sight all along. She used her avatars to infiltrate their ranks and waited for the best time to strike, Kim Dokja realized. A woman with the power to inhabit many bodies at once, she had slipped agents into every king's court, gathering the 7-star jewels one by one, and now she made her move. "My jewels," a defeated king cried as she took them. "The fake King Swyong Han has acquired all 7-star jewels," the system announced. "Is that the real plagiarist?" someone wondered. "I didn't expect it to be a woman. And she's called the fake king." Grin. She had played every king for a fool, and now she held all 7 jewels, the key to the greatest treasure in the room of the North Star. She spent them at once. "The 7-star jewels have been sacrificed to summon a new item," the system declared. Spark. Spark. And out of the sacrifice came the legendary blade everyone had been chasing. The fake King Swyong Han has summoned the 4-een demon decapitator. The great sword, the SSSSS grade weapon, the prize of the entire dungeon, materialized in her hands. "Ha ha ha, did you see that?" she crowed. "The sword is mine. Now I will kill every last one of you." She had outplayed them all, seized the ultimate weapon, and stood ready to slaughter the assembled kings. Except the sword was worthless. Because Kim Dokja knew the deepest truth of the fake treasure map cliché, and it applied here perfectly. "But you said that sword was really powerful," someone protested. It's very powerful, but... "What's going on?" the fake king screamed as she swung the legendary blade, and it did nothing. "This sword is useless." And here was the twist. The 4-een demon decapitator is famous, not because it's a great sword, but because its owner was a great warrior. The blade had no power of its own. It was renowned only because the hero who once wielded it had been extraordinary. In the hands of anyone else, it was just a sword. The fake king had sacrificed the 7-star jewels, betrayed every ruler in Seoul, and won a trophy that could not cut. What a way to break away from the cliché, Kim Dokja thought. You should have done that in your writing. The con artist who had schemed her way to the ultimate prize had been undone by the very cliché she thought she was exploiting. Need a hand, Kim Dokja offered as she floundered, half mocking, half merciful. Shut up, I don't need your help, she spat, still swinging her useless sword. Why you? I will end you all. But her scheme had collapsed, and the war of kings spiraled into chaos around her. There was a strange satisfaction in it for Kim Dokja, watching the greedy destroyed by their own greed. Everyone in this room had chased the same trophies, the star jewels, the legendary sword, the ruler's throne, and every one of them had been so blinded by wanting that they never stopped to ask whether the prize was real. The fake king had betrayed a dozen rulers for a sword that could not cut. The tyrant king had bought package after package to make himself strong, never realizing that strength alone would never satisfy the throne. And the plagiarist had stolen a story he did not understand, certain that copying the beginning would let him predict the end. Each of them had reached for power the easy way, and each of them was about to learn that the easy way was a trap the story itself had laid. Only Kim Dokja, who had read to the very end, understood that the real prizes in this world were never the ones that glittered. He kept his own plan moving even amid the chaos. Sangha, Giliang, get back, he ordered, shielding his people as the kings tore at one another. Charge! His group struck with discipline while the rulers of Seoul fought like animals. And Kim Dokja gathered what he had come for, threading through the madness with the calm of a man who had already read how it ended. Let the tyrants and con artists exhaust themselves, he thought. Let them thin their own ranks. He would take what he needed and be gone before the dust settled. And now the true horror of the chamber emerged. The kings were dying, faster and faster, and no one could see the killer. The number of kings is reducing rapidly, the system reported. Current number of kings, 10. 9. Someone's here. Someone's killing off all the kings. One by one, the rulers of Seoul were being cut down by an unseen hand, the count dropping toward the 5 the throne would allow. Crack. Crack. Crash. The chamber trembled, stone splitting, as an overwhelming power moved through the kings like a scythe through wheat. What the hell is going on? A survivor screamed as the count fell. Current number of kings, 7. This can't be possible. And Kim Dokja understood who it had to be. The most powerful king of Seoul is the tyrant king, everyone believed. But Kim Dokja knew better. The tyrant king is strong, he thought, but he definitely isn't the strongest. Because for all the tyrant's packages and cheats and fire, there was one king who outclassed him, one ruler who had been quietly conquering the city while everyone else squabbled over jewels and thrones. The most powerful of the 7 kings of Seoul, Kim Dokja knew, the one thinning their ranks with impossible ease, the one whose name struck fear into every constellation. The Supreme King. Junghyuk. Yu Junghyuk. The strongest man in the world, the regressor who had lived 1,000 lives, had been in this war all along, and he had been winning it. While the tyrant king raised his palanquin and the fake king gathered her jewels and the plagiarist defended his theft, the true protagonist of the story had been carving through the kings of Seoul, claiming the title of Supreme King, climbing toward the ruler's throne itself. The most powerful of the 7 kings was not a tyrant or a con artist or a thief. It was the hero Kim Dokja had saved, the man who had wished only to survive to see the ending of a certain novel. And now that hero was coming, and his greeting was a threat. "You're dead meat," a voice said from the shadows, cold and certain. A figure moved through the dark, blade in hand, the count of kings still falling in his wake. "Dokja Kim," the Supreme King said. Because Yu Junghyuk had found him at last, in the burning heart of the room of the North Star, and the reunion of the reader and the regressor was about to become the collision that decided the throne of all Seoul. The two of them had been circling each other since the first scenario, ally and rival, reader and protagonist, and now they stood on opposite sides of a war for a crown. Kim Dokja had exposed a plagiarist, watched a con artist undone by her own cliché, and learned that the mightiest king in the city was the very hero he had dragged back from death. The tyrant king still burned with borrowed power, the fake king still swung her useless legendary blade, and the kings of Seoul were being culled toward the 5 the throne would permit. But now the Supreme King had entered the field, and his eyes were fixed on Kim Dokja. The War of Kings had found its true climax, not tyrant against con artist, but reader against regressor, the two loneliest people in the apocalypse facing each other across a throne. The loneliest reader in the world stood in the firelight as the strongest man alive advanced on him, an unbreakable blade in his hand and a decade of impossible knowledge in his head. His story, as always, was only just beginning. Kim Dokja had a plan for everything. He had schemed his way through kings and con artists, through fire dragons and fake prophets. But now, at the very last step, the reader made a mistake so simple it could cost him everything. He had been so focused on the big picture that he forgot one small, fatal detail, and the goblins running the game had been waiting for exactly that. To fix it, his friends would have to pull off something no one in the entire story had ever done. The board was nearly set. Out of the 7 kings, Kim Dokja had met them all. The Hermit King of the Shadows, Dong Hoon Han. The King of Beauty, Jaiwan Min. The Maitreya King, Sangyeong Cha. The Earth Dragon King, Tizong-gu. And the Tyrant King, Yanki Jong. There's still one king left, he thought, and even with the neutral king who hasn't appeared yet. But the most powerful of them all had already arrived, and Kim Dokja had met him first of all. The most powerful of the 7 kings of Seoul is the Supreme King, Jung-hikyu. You're dead meat, the Supreme King said from the shadows, blade in hand. Dokja Kim. The strongest man in the world had come for the reader who saved him. He sure is worthy to be the main character, Kim Dokja thought, watching Yoo Jung-hyuk cut through the chamber. Because the Supreme King moved through the War of Kings like a force of nature, and there was no one who could match him. But Kim Dokja was not here to fight the hero. He was here to claim a throne, and to do that he needed one thing above all, the black flag. And he earned it. Cutting through a rival king's forces, Kim Dokja seized the enemy's banner. You have obtained the flag of the Honam University Group, the system announced. Your purple flag has absorbed the contribution points accumulated in the black flag. Your purple flag has evolved into a black flag. You can now use the skill of the black flag. You have accomplished the first king's qualification. The black flag, the crown of the one true king, the only key to the ruler's throne, was finally his. You thief, a defeated king screamed. Current number of kings, 6. The count was falling toward the 5 the throne would allow, and Kim Dokja had qualified. He gathered items along the way, too. Obtained the item, 3-wheeled ring. Obtained the item, dragon jar. Treasures stripped from fallen kings, tools for the battles ahead. But there was a tense reunion in the middle of it all. Yoo Jung-hyuk had read the memo Kim Dokja left him, and it had stirred something in the regressor. Hold on, Jung-hyuk, Dokja said, let's talk this out. That memo. My sister, the Supreme King said. What about your sister? Because buried in Yoo Jung-hyuk's endless regressions was a grief he never spoke of, and Kim Dokja's note had touched it. Where did you hide my sister? The hero demanded. What are you talking about? Jung-hikyu is using the skill lie detection, level 8. The regressor searched Kim Dokja's words for deception, desperate for any thread that might lead to someone he had lost. Jung-hikyu has confirmed that you are telling a lie. Damn it, Dokja thought. I'm really going to kill you if you don't tell me right now. The reunion of reader and hero teetered on the edge of violence. Fine, the Supreme King said. But first, let's put down that sword. What will you do if I am a bad guy? Are you going to hold my family hostage? There you go. Die, Jung-hyuk. Wait, calm down, over there. The two circled each other, blades ready, neither quite willing to strike the other down. You can't be fighting already, someone urged. Let's see, all the qualifications have been met. Current number of kings, 5. The war had thinned to its final 5, and the endgame was about to begin. The qualified kings will be transported to the last stage, the system announced. Flash. Spark. And they were pulled toward the final trial, the last king's qualification, where only one could remain standing. Your Majesty, someone cried. Damn it. That was close. The final king's qualification has begun. And this was where Kim Dokja's mistake came home to roost. Because the Dakibi had a surprise waiting. What? The system chimed with cruel sweetness. You've been disqualified from participating in the final king's qualification. What? Dokja gasped. Ha ha ha. You've missed an important detail because you were too focused on the big picture. You must occupy your target station in order to participate in the final king's qualification. Your target station is Changsin Station. You have failed to occupy your target station. Because in all his scheming, all his hunting of kings and claiming of flags, Kim Dokja had forgotten the simplest requirement of the whole scenario. He had never taken Changsin. You cannot participate in the final phase if you do not complete the previous phases, the Dakibi gloated. Did you think we'd just forget? I forgot about the target station, Kim Dokja realized in horror, because I was so focused on taking out the other kings. I haven't occupied Changsin Station yet. Should I head over there right now? But the scenario would be over by the time I got back. They've already started fighting. It was a catastrophe. He had qualified for the throne and then disqualified himself through a single oversight, and there was no time to march all the way to Changsin and back. Could he have done something, he wondered, suspecting the Dakibi had let him walk into the trap. Oh, he breathed, as despair set in. But Kim Dokja was never truly alone, and his friends had been working a miracle behind the scenes. Sangha, is that, he said, as his companions appeared. Because the answer to his impossible problem had a name, and it was Miyu. This is the end to my perfect plan, the Dakibi crowed. I had planned for Junghik to go north after seeing the note I sent with Jaihai, then for Huiwon to save his sister so I could manipulate him. The goblin had schemed to trap Kim Dokja through his allies. But Huiwon Jong had a plan of her own. Where are you going, Dokja? Someone asked. To take over Changsin Station. But how? And there it was, the miracle. Hey, give me that thing I gave you, Kim Dokja said. Okay. Moi. Is that, a flagpole? It's Miyu's skill, inventory. Because the girl Miyu had a storage skill, and Huiwon had used it to do the unthinkable. Did she just bring the flagpole from Changsin Station? The Dakibi gasped, its perfect plan collapsing. No one in the entire 3 ways to survive the apocalypse has ever done that before. The constellation, the adventurer who makes eggs stand, is moved by Huiwon Zhong's idea. Instead of marching to Changsin to plant a flag, Huiwon had simply carried the entire flagpole of Changsin Station back to Kim Dokja, stored in an inventory skill, a solution so audacious that even the story that contained it had never seen its like. What are you waiting for? She said. Plant the flag and get going, Your Majesty. Kim Dokja planted his flag on the stolen pole. Chungmuro. Your group has taken control of Changsin Station. You have received 2,000 coins as your reward for capture the flag. It worked, someone cheered. I can't even. Clap. 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 His group had turned certain disqualification into victory through sheer creativity, and Kim Dokja was back in the running for the throne. Your body will be transported to the stage of the final king's qualification, the system announced. Whoosh. Flash. And Kim Dokja arrived at the last battle. But this final stage had cruel new rules. King's qualification. The one worthy of the throne shall be braver than the rest. The throne does not want a weak king. The one king who is worthy of the ruler's throne must be able to prove his worth without body alone. And then the great equalizer, all kings can no longer receive the support of their constellation. The items that affect your attack and defense stats will be restricted. The use of all skills, stigmas, and special item effects will be restricted. The overall stats of all kings will be reduced to 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. Every king stripped bare. No skills. No stigmas. No divine blessings. No magic items. Just 5 kings with identical, ordinary stats, fighting on equal ground to prove who was truly worthy of the throne. And here Kim Dokja remembered the loophole, because he had read this exact scene. If I remember correctly, he thought, Jung-hyuk finds a loophole in the last phase. A fight with no skills, no stigmas, and an average stat of 10. There is only one thing that's not restricted. Coins. Because the scenario had banned skills and stigmas and items, but it had said nothing about buying raw stats with coins. And the one king with a fortune to spend was the Supreme King. They probably don't have any coins left, Kim Dokja knew. There's no way they saved their coins during their battles to get here. But Jung-hyuk has always had some to spare. He should have about 30,000. No, since he's progressed quite quickly, maybe 40,000 coins. The regressor had hoarded a war chest, and in a fight where nothing else was allowed, coins were everything. And Yu Jung-hyuk sprang the loophole exactly as the story foretold. Ding! Ding! Jung-hyuk, someone gasped, as the Supreme King poured his fortune into a single stat. Spent 4,000 coins on strength. Spent 4,000 coins on strength. Again and again, the messages rang out, the regressor converting his entire treasury into raw power. You have spent a total of 72,000 coins, the system reported. 72,000. His strength level 10 had become strength level 100. Your strength has surpassed that of a human's. Clench. It's time to reap the fruits of my investments, the Supreme King said, and his fist crackled with power no ordinary king could hope to match. Boom. The strongest man in the world had turned a rulebook loophole into overwhelming might, exactly as he had done in the story Kim Dokja alone had read. Almost as if he's waiting to see how high my stats are, Yu Jung-hyuk thought, studying the unremarkable rival before him. He sure is careful. He probably wants to win using the minimum amount of coin possible. He could get his sister back if he sat on the ruler's throne. The Supreme King fought for something deeper than a crown, he fought to reclaim family lost across 1,000 lifetimes. But he'll soon realize how cocky he's been, Kim Dokja thought. Because the reader knew something the regressor did not, that overconfidence, even in the strongest man alive, could be a weakness, and Kim Dokja had read exactly how this fight would unfold. The other kings began to fall. The King of Beauty, Jaewon Min, faced the impossible power of the Supreme King and made her choice. I will forfeit, she said. The King of Beauty, Jaewon Min, has forfeited. The ancient queen bowed out rather than be crushed. And the Maithreya king, Sangyeong Cha, the devil recruiter, fought on but could not last. The lady of the sleeping brocade is questioning the fairness of this scenario, the system noted, even as the equalized battle ground the kings down. Cough. Cough. The Maithreya king, Sangyeong Cha, can no longer fight. One by one, the rulers of Seoul were eliminated, until only the strongest remained, and the throne drew closer to being claimed. The final scenario stood clear. Main Scenario 4, the King's Qualification. Clear condition, occupy the ruler's throne on the main street of Gwanghwamun. Reward, 10,000 coins. The king who occupies the ruler's throne will be given absolute command over the other kings. Only the worthy could sit upon it, and now the field had narrowed to the Supreme King with his bought strength, and Kim Dokja, the reader who knew every move before it happened. Kim Dokja had nearly lost everything to a single forgotten detail, only to be saved by the most creative solution in the story's history, an entire flagpole carried across the city in a storage skill. He had claimed the black flag, survived the Great Equalizer, and watched the Supreme King unleash the coin loophole he had always known was coming. Now only he and Yu Junghyuk remained in the race for the ruler's throne, reader and regressor, the two loneliest people in the apocalypse, facing each other one last time with the crown of all soul between them. The loneliest reader in the world stood on the final stage, an unbreakable resolve in his heart and every page of the story in his head. His story, as always, was only just beginning. Kim Dokja had beaten the strongest man in the world, passed every trial, and earned the throne of all soul. Absolute power over the entire city was his for the taking. All he had to do was sit down. And Kim Dokja refused. Because the reader understood something no king in the war had grasped, that the throne itself was the trap, and the only way to win was to walk away from the crown everyone else was killing for. First, the impossible fight. The Supreme King had turned coins into raw strength, pushing his power past any human limit. Your strength has surpassed that of a human's, the system reported. Incredibly, you're the first to have strength in 3 digits. You have received 30,000 coins as a reward. And Yu Junghyuk spent even that windfall at once. Spent 10,000 coins on agility. Whoosh. Twish. The regressor became a blur of overwhelming power, strength at 100, agility soaring, a god among the equalized kings. Whoa, you startled me, Kim Dokja thought as the hero blurred toward him. Roar. It should have been the end. But it wasn't. Because Kim Dokja had read this fight, and he had planned for it. Crack. Thud. Thud. Crash. When the dust settled, it was the Supreme King who lay on the ground. Looks like the underdog has won, Dokja said, dusting himself off. Did I hit him too hard, he worried. I didn't kill him, did I? Junghyuk. Because beating Yu Junghyuk without killing him was its own kind of miracle, and the reader had walked the knife's edge of his king of no-killing crown to do it. Whoa, you startled me, he said as the fallen hero stirred. Has he passed out with his eyes open? How can he still be conscious after being hit with 100 strength? Even beaten, Yu Junghyuk would not fully fall, the stubborn will of 1,000 lifetimes refusing to surrender. Junghyuk, Dokja said. Well, I guess it was a fair fight. And the system delivered its verdict. Congratulations, you have passed all the qualifications for the ruler's throne. Your temporary stats have been reset. All the restrictions that were put in place have been lifted. Kim Dokja had won. Out of every king in Seoul, the tyrant and the con artist and the plagiarist and the Supreme King himself, the unremarkable reader stood as the last one qualified for the throne. A new owner of the ruler's throne, the constellations murmured, gathering to watch the coronation. The prisoner of the golden headband was satisfied with the ending. The secretive plotter applauded. The whole cosmos leaned in to see Kim Dokja claim absolute power over the city. And then he turned it down. Wait, the Dakibi said, alarmed, as Kim Dokja made no move toward the throne. What is it? Dokja asked. Aren't you being a little too hasty? You made the announcement when I haven't even sat on the throne yet. But aren't you going to anyway? Because the goblin could not imagine anyone refusing the crown. What can I do with this thing? Dokja mused. Make other humans do your bidding. It's just as the name implies. As long as you're seated on the throne, you will be the absolute ruler. That sounds too good to be true. I'll have absolute power over the land in which I rule. You're only getting what you deserve. You've risked your life to get where you are now. So does this throne give me powers that override the rule of plausibility? Kim Dokja asked. And there it was, the crack in the golden offer. Because a power that great always came with a price. You're such a good liar, the Dakibi said. Maybe it's because you're a Dakibi. Doesn't the management have rules against lying like that? The reader saw through the temptation. The throne promised absolute power, but absolute power drew absolute scrutiny, and a king who overrode the very rules of the world would become the biggest target the scenario had ever produced. Let's not argue over this, the Dakibi pressed, we have to end the scenario. Now, go sit on it. If you keep acting out, I will just destroy the ruler's throne. Oh, about that. Go ahead, I don't care, Kim Dokja said. I refuse to sit, he declared. On the ruler's throne. And the reason was the deepest truth of who Kim Dokja was. Because he had read what the throne did to the people who sat on it. The ruler's throne would help clear the fifth scenario, he knew, but I won't ever be able to reach the end of the scenario if I use it. The crown was a leash. Whoever sat on it became bound to Seoul, tied to the city, made into a king who could never leave to face what was coming. And Kim Dokja was not fighting to rule a ruined city. He was fighting to reach the ending of the story, to save everyone, to walk all the way to the epilogue. A throne would stop him at the first city. If I use the power of the ruler's throne even once, he thought, I will never be able to reach the end of the scenario. But there was more to his refusal than strategy. There was principle. More importantly, he said, I don't want to rule over the likes of you. That's why I refuse to sit on the ruler's throne. Because Kim Dokja had watched the tyrant king slaughter his own people, had seen the war of kings turn survivors into slaves and concubines and corpses. He had built his own group on trust, not fear, freeing a boy king instead of enslaving him, hiring a god instead of murdering him. He did not want to be a king who commanded others. Neither do I want to sign with any of you lousy constellations, he added. And the rest of you, have you forgotten already? We used to live in a democratic country. But why are you all acting like you're subjects of a kingdom? It was a rebuke to the whole apocalypse, to the ancient tyrants and the worshipping constellations alike. The world had turned into a stage of kings and gods, and Kim Dokja refused to play his part. I will stop anyone else from sitting on that throne, he vowed. A world without a king. The Dakibi carried out its threat. Fine, I don't care, it snarled, and destroyed the ruler's throne. Roar. Crash. The seat of absolute power shattered, and the crown of all souls ceased to exist, because the one man worthy of it had chosen to walk away. It's just so that you can fulfill your desires, the goblin raged. How much longer must your descendants suffer? But Kim Dokja was unmoved. I'm afraid I can't let you go on, he said. Snap. And the constellations debated furiously. But haven't you done enough, some argued. You make history and become historical constellations, and build up fabled acts to become historical constellations. For how long must this land suffer at the expense of your bickerings? Because Kim Dokja's refusal had exposed the whole cruel game, the constellations grew powerful by making their incarnations perform legendary deeds, and they did not care how many people died to feed their legends. Then what next? One demanded. What will you do after you become the brightest, shining star in the sky? The one-eyed Maitreya was in deep thought. The lady of the sleeping brocade fell silent. Even the gods were forced to reckon with a man who would not become their puppet king. But refusing the throne did not make Kim Dokja safe. It made him a target. Because the throne could still be usurped, and every defeated king wanted it. Ding! A new sub-scenario has arrived. Sub-scenario, usurp the throne. Category, sub. Difficulty, B, clear condition, subdue incarnation Dokja Kim who refuses to sit on the throne and usurp the throne for yourself. Time limit, 30 minutes. Reward, 6,000 coins. Suddenly every king Kim Dokja had beaten had a reason to come for him, a bounty on the man who stood between them and the crown. They came. Come at me if you dare, Kim Dokja said, drawing his blade as the kings converged. Slide. Step. Clang. The king of beauty, Jaiwan Min, and the Maitreya king, Sanggyang Cha, closed in. What are you waiting for? The Dakibi urged them, get them. Roar. The defeated rulers threw themselves at the man who had refused the throne, and Kim Dokja stood alone against them, an underdog who had beaten the strongest king only to face all the rest at once. And here his people rallied to him. Dokja, you do have a plan, right? Someone asked. What do you want us to do? Because Kim Dokja always had a plan, and this one required time. Try to buy us some time, he said. Clang. Crack. His companions threw themselves into the fight, holding back the kings, buying the precious seconds Kim Dokja needed. So I can destroy this throne, he thought, or rather, use what came next. Because Kim Dokja reached again for the relic that had won him the Battle of Wangsanbil. He held up the Ganpyeongui, the ancient astronomical disk, and activated its power one more time. Activating Ganpyeongui's special ability, Echo of the Stars, the system announced. Echo of the Stars allows you to seek the help of a high constellation. I will call upon a constellation, Kim Dokja declared. Splash. His voice rose through the stars, calling out to the heavens for aid against the kings closing in around him. And this time, he called upon something vast. I call, he said, upon the 7 stars of the Big Dipper. The 7 stars of the Big Dipper. One of the most powerful and revered constellations in all of East Asian belief, the 7 stars that govern fate and death and fortune, the celestial rulers that ancient Korea had prayed to for 1,000 years. Sparkle. Sparkle. The stars have set sail, the system reported, as the great constellation of the Big Dipper turned its attention toward the reader who had refused a throne. High above the burning ruins of the War of Kings, 7 ancient stars began to shine, answering Kim Dokja's call, and the balance of the entire battle began to shift. Kim Dokja had done the unthinkable. He had beaten the strongest man in the world, earned absolute power over Seoul, and then refused it, choosing a world without a king over a crown that would have chained him forever. The Dakibi had destroyed the throne in fury, the defeated kings had turned on him for the chance to usurp it, and now the reader stood alone, calling down the 7 stars of the Big Dipper to fight at his side. He had rejected the easy path of tyranny for the harder road of freedom, refusing to rule the people he had fought to protect. The loneliest reader in the world raised the Ganpyeongui to the sky, the Big Dipper blazing above him and every king in Seoul arrayed against him. His story, as always, was only just beginning. Kim Dokja had refused the throne of all Seoul. Now he was going to destroy it forever, so that no one could ever use it. To do that, he would call down 7 of the most powerful constellations in the heavens at once, a feat that should shatter his mind, and pay a price that even the gods warned him would kill him. This was the birth of the king of the world without a king. He raised the Ganpyeongwi and called out to the stars. "I will call upon a constellation," he said, and the heavens answered. The first star of the Big Dipper, Tamlang. The second star, Geomun. The third star, Nokjeon. The fourth star, Mungok. The fifth star, Yeomjeong. The sixth star, Musak. One by one, the 7 stars of the Big Dipper turned their ancient eyes toward him. "The 6 constellations are looking at you," the system reported. But calling them was madness, and they told him so. "What are you thinking?" they asked. "If you call all of us, your mind will be completely destroyed. Why walk the thorny path when there's an easier way out? Why did you call us?" Because summoning a single high constellation was enough to make most incarnations faint, and Kim Dokja was calling 7 at once. The strain alone could tear his mind to pieces. But the reader had a purpose worth the risk, and he would not turn back. First he had to fuel the ritual. By sacrificing the 5-grade item, the 3-wheeled ring, he thought, I recharged the usage count on the Ganpyeongwi. Flash. He fed the precious relic into the astronomical disk, and its power renewed. The usage count for the 5-grade item, Ganpyeongwi, has been recharged. And then he called the last star. "I call the 7th star of the Big Dipper," he said. Pagan. The full constellation of the Big Dipper now blazed above him, 7 ancient stars answering the call of a man who had refused a crown. They wanted to know why. "What do you want from us?" they asked. And Kim Dokja told them. "I want to cut off the tie the throne has with its owner," he said. "Please lend me your sword." "Do you know what that entails?" "I do. Because the ruler's throne was no ordinary prize. The throne allows the user to borrow the powers of one of the rulers of the dark dimension," Kim Dokja knew. "It will be handy to have such powers for now. I'll be able to control Jungheek and neutralize my enemies." The throne offered godlike power, the ability to command even the supreme king. But there was a catch, and it was catastrophic. "But our world will be brought to an end as a result," he thought. "That is the price I must pay for borrowing such great power. Whoever used the throne's power doomed the world to feed it. And so Kim Dokja would not use it. He would destroy it, cut its tie to its owner, and end its temptation forever." Even the constellations recoiled. "How dare a mere human like you challenge the owner of the throne?" they demanded. "I'm not trying to fight him," Dokja answered. "I only want to cut off the tie between him and the throne." "You cannot handle the plausibility," they warned. "You will die because of it." "That's my decision to make," he said. "That's my decision to make." Because Kim Dokja had always known that the hardest road was the only one that led to the ending he wanted, and he would walk it even if it killed him. And now the useless sword became the key. The 4-een demon decapitator, the blade the fake king had won and found worthless, was transformed by the power of the stars. The 5-grade item, 4-een demon decapitator, has been upgraded to a constellation artifact. Flare. "We respect your decision," his companion said, watching. "Although you may die here, we will remember you. Because the sword had a hidden purpose all along. The 4-een demon decapitator is a sword made to be used in rituals," Kim Dokja explained. "It is one of the few items that can cut the tie a constellation artifact has with the constellation who owns it. This is the real power of the 4-een demon decapitator. The blade was never meant to win battles. It was meant to sever bonds, to cut the throne loose from the power that fed it. Let's begin, Kim Dokja said. Flare. He drove the ritual sword into the ruler's throne. Crack. Crackle. Clank. The seat of absolute power screamed as the reader cut its tie to the dark dimension, unmaking the crown of all soul. Is he going to destroy the throne? The Dakibi shrieked. What are you doing? Stop him. With such naive thinking, you will never make it to the end. But Kim Dokja did not care what the goblin thought. I don't care what others think, he said. The story I want to tell is. And he finished the cut. Crash. The ruler's throne shattered into nothing, its power severed, its temptation erased. No one would ever rule Seoul from it again. The sub-scenario has ended, the system announced. Damn it, you insignificant worm, the Dakibi raged. A mysterious ruler has noticed the sudden change in this world. Because destroying the throne was not just an act of defiance. It had rippled outward, drawing the attention of powers far greater than any Dakibi. And then the price came due. Prepare yourself for the burden of plausibility, the system warned. Because Kim Dokja had done something that should be impossible, and the universe demanded he pay for it. I'll be fine, he thought. For something to be plausible, things have to seem probable. I've done everything I could to make things look plausible. But the backlash was overwhelming. Dokja. The pain tore through him. It feels as if my body's going to shred apart, he gasped, collapsing under the weight of having done the impossible. You didn't think you'd get out of this unscathed, did you? The Dakibi sneered. The reader who had unmade a throne now faced the full fury of a world rejecting what he had done. But Kim Dokja was not alone, and this was the moment that proved it. Because the constellations he had honored, flattered, allied with, and moved across all his journeys now came to his aid. The last hero of Wangsanbeil was looking at him. The lady of the sleeping brocade. The great King Hungmu. The one-eyed Mithraea. The bald army general. The naval warfare god. And the 7 stars of the Big Dipper. One by one, the constellations turned their gaze upon Kim Dokja and did something almost unheard of. The constellations are sharing my burden of plausibility, he realized, as the crushing pain began to ease. The pain is subsiding. The gods he had earned through kindness and cunning and respect now lifted the impossible weight from his shoulders, each taking a share of the burden that should have killed him. He had spent the whole apocalypse treating constellations not as masters to obey but as allies to honor, and now, when he needed them most, they answered. And the system crowned him with a title no one had ever held. We will be watching you, the constellations said, the king of the world without a king. You have achieved a non-existing achievement. The 4th scenario has ended abruptly. A new family has been created. The fable, the king of the world without a king, has been created. Kim Dokja had become something the story had never contained, a king who ruled no one, a sovereign of a world with no throne, the man who had won absolute power and destroyed it rather than use it. Due to an unexpected event, the reward calculation will be delayed. And in the quiet after, a resolve settled over Kim Dokja, the truest thing he had ever felt. There is no next regression for me, he thought. I will end the story in this world. Because unlike Yu Junghyuk, who could die and begin again, Kim Dokja had only one life, one chance, one story. And he would spend it not resetting the world, but finishing it, walking all the way to the ending no matter the cost. Kim Dokja had refused a crown, destroyed a throne, called down 7 stars, and survived a burden meant to kill him, all because the constellations he had honored chose to share his pain. He had become the king of the world without a king, a sovereign who ruled by freedom instead of fear. The 4th scenario was over, a new and stranger power had noticed him, and the story stretched on toward its distant end. The loneliest reader in the world rose from the ruins of a throne he had unmade, an unbreakable resolve in his heart and every page of the story still ahead of him. His story, as always, was only just beginning. Kim Dokja had destroyed the throne and created a world without a king. The Dakibi's revenge was swift and cruel. It scattered him and his friends across the ruined city, alone, and sent Kim Dokja to the last place he ever wanted to see again. His old workplace. And there, in the shell of the company that had ground him down for years, he would discover that the cruelest tyrants of the apocalypse were not ancient kings or fire dragons. They were his former bosses. The Dakibi was furious. "I will personally make sure," it seethed, "that you regret what you did today for the rest of your life. You must be happy, since I won this round." But Kim Dokja had won the only battle that mattered. The world without a king, he had made real. "Fine," the goblin snarled, "I'd love to see you try. Because the other king still wanted the crown. Give us another ruler's throne," the tyrant king demanded. "We'll take part in the scenario again. Let's elect a new ruler." "But the scenario has ended," the Dakibi said. "No one can change that. Whatever happens to you all from now on." And with that, it sprang its revenge. Snap. The world twisted, and everyone was scattered. "Let's see how long you can survive," the Dakibi laughed, "without a leader." "What, where did everyone go? This wasn't supposed to happen." Dokja. His companions cried out as they were torn apart and flung across the city, each teleported to a place tied to their own past. The group Kim Dokja had built, the soldier, the judge, the boy, the office worker, all separated in an instant. And the tyrant king struck in the chaos. "If this world comes to an end," he raged, "it's all because of you." Whoosh. He came for Kim Dokja with all his bought strength. But the reader was not so easily killed. "You," the tyrant snarled, and their blades met one last time. "Ha, look at him," someone laughed, "I think he might just kill us." But the scenario was ending, and the system delivered its final reward. You have obtained 10,000 coins as a reward for completing the fourth scenario. The War of Kings was over. Kim Dokja had refused the throne, destroyed it, and walked away with the title of the king of the world without a king. Then the teleportation took him, and he arrived somewhere painfully familiar. Level 3 of Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint activated. "Hey, can you hear me?" a voice reached him. "Are you all right?" "Sir." "Dokja, where are you?" Sangha, searching for him across the distance. "I think I get it," he realized. Everyone seems to have been teleported to a place with personal ties. That mid-level Dakibi must have created solo scenarios for each individual. Even if this is independent of the main scenario, he would be held responsible for pulling something like this. "I'm fine," he told her through the link. "Just keep yourselves safe. I'll come find you soon." Level 3 of Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint deactivated. And then he looked around, and his heart sank. Mino Soft. This is the rooftop of Mino Soft, the company I used to work for. Because the Dakibi's cruel joke had sent Kim Dokja back to the place where he had spent his adult life being exploited, the gaming company that had worked him to the bone. Why here of all places, he thought. Every time I'd get an earful from my managers, I'd come up here with Mr. Yun to pass time. Damn it, I was hoping I would end up anywhere but here. The rooftop where he used to escape his bosses, now a ruin under an apocalyptic sky. The memories came flooding back, and they were not kind. In a half-dream, Kim Dokja remembered his old life, the pathetic daydreams of a nobody. "Why don't you go make front-page news like your mom?" a coworker had once sneered, mocking him. "If I was Jung Hee-kyu." Because even back then, before the world ended, Kim Dokja had escaped into the story, imagining himself as brave as the hero he read about. Of all the dreams I could have, he thought bitterly. Minu song. I wonder what he's up to these days. I heard he went to a good university and got himself a great job despite being a bully. The kid who had tormented him in school. Thriving. It was the small, grinding cruelty of an ordinary life, the kind Kim Dokja had endured for years before the scenarios turned him into something more. Personal skill, the fourth wall, has been activated. I wonder if he's still alive. The system gave him a new task, a quiet one. A sub-scenario has been started as a filler. Sub-scenario, survival activities. Category, sub. Clear conditions, survive in the ruined city for 10 days. You must eat 3 meals a day, sleep for 6 hours every night, and have a survival. If you fail to perform any of the 3 conditions, you will be met with a penalty. Reward, none. 10 days remaining until the 5th scenario begins. It was almost gentle, a demand simply to live, to eat and sleep and survive, in the 10 days before the next catastrophe. But Kim Dokja had a practical problem. Well, this seems like the perfect time to stock up on coins, he thought, exploring the ruined company. There's no king in the Siachogu area as far as I know. I think this area belonged to the Wanderers. And more urgently, I need to find a portable power bank. Because his phone, the phone that held the complete novel, the most valuable object in the universe, was out of battery. Out of battery. He needed to charge the one weapon that mattered most, and so he rummaged through the wreckage of his old office for a power bank, a nobody scavenging the ruins of the company that once owned his life. As much as I used to hate it here, he admitted, I kind of miss it. And then, in the dark of the ruined building, he met a ghost from his past. Who goes there? Kim Dokja called, sensing someone. And a voice answered, disbelieving. Dokja. Is that you? A man stepped into the light, and recognition washed over them both. Mr. Yun. An old co-worker, alive. Dokja, you survived, the man cried. You're alive. Mr. Yun, a colleague from the company, a familiar face in a world of monsters and kings. But Mr. Yun's story was dark. It was horrible, he said, his eyes haunted. Everyone who was working overtime was put in the first scenario. Because the apocalypse had begun in this very building, and the co-workers trapped here had been forced to kill to survive. You know what, Mr. Yun confessed, I killed Mr. Kim myself. That bastard who always used to give us an earful. I stabbed his neck with a pen and the blood. He had murdered their tyrant boss in the first scenario, driven to it by fear and years of resentment. In the world before, they had all been powerless employees under cruel managers. In the world after, some of them had become killers. And Mr. Yun offered Kim Dokja an easy path, the coward's path. You don't have to clear the scenarios yourself, he said. Don't you know? If you just stay hidden, the others clear the scenario for you. There's no point in risking your life. Come on, take it easy, will you? The world has gone to shit. Wanderers like us have gathered to form a group. You don't always need a king to band together, right? He was inviting Kim Dokja to hide, to let others do the fighting, to survive by cowardice. Hurry and get a move on, he urged, leading the reader deeper into the building. Take them to the back. But something was wrong, and Kim Dokja felt it. Because Mr. Yun's group was not a refuge. It was a business. And the business was blood. As they descended into the depths of Mino Soft, the truth revealed itself in a horror of cages and cheering. The players were the king in the video game industry, Kim Dokja realized, staring at the men who ran the operation. And the CEO was the king in Mino Soft. Who do you think is king in this new world? Because the executives of his old company, the department head, the deputy manager, the director, the men who had ruled the corporate hierarchy, had recreated their kingdom in the apocalypse. Only now, instead of exploiting employees for profit, they ran a coliseum, forcing captured survivors to fight to the death for the entertainment of the constellations. Kill him, the crowd roared as two captives were thrown into a cage. Kill him now. Stab. Pow. Thud. Is that the best you can do? Cut him. That's it, give him hell. A constellation who loves the Colosseum is overjoyed, the system reported. Many constellations are bored by the fights taking place in the cages. Because the gods, hungry for spectacle, paid coins to watch humans slaughter each other, and the corporate kings of Mino Soft had built an entire economy on it. They pay us the coins they're gifted, an executive explained, in return for food. A coin farm. It appears in 3 ways to survive the apocalypse too, Kim Dokja knew, but I didn't expect to see it this early. A coin farm, harvesting coins from the deaths of the desperate. And Kim Dokja was the next attraction. We've got some fresh meat, a captor shouted, spotting him. Lock them up. Take them over there. The men who had once been his managers now looked at him as livestock for the arena. Hey, newbie, one sneered, get the picture. You know who those people are, right? The head of the department, the deputy manager, the director. And I don't think you get it. They were the kings of the old corporate world, and in the new world they had simply changed the currency from money to blood. But the executives had made a mistake, because they did not know what Kim Dokja had become. And here the reader turned their own game against them. Because Mr. Yun, the co-worker who had led him here, was himself a victim, a broken man forced to serve the coin farm. And Kim Dokja saw a way to break the whole operation. He took your presentation and pretended like he did it himself. Kim Dokja reminded Mr. Yun of an old corporate humiliation, and the deputy manager, he worked you like a slave. Have you forgotten what they did to you? Because the men running this coliseum were the same men who had stolen Mr. Yun's work, mocked him, ground him down for years. A constellation who loves vengeance wants the newbie to take revenge, the system noted. Some constellations are sympathizing with the newbie. Enact your revenge, the system offered, a sub-scenario blooming in the dark. What are you waiting for? Kim Dokja pressed. That's right, you know what to do. He was turning the coin farm inside out, stoking the buried rage of the exploited worker against the corporate tyrants who had abused him. Mr. Yun, an executive stammered, what are you? The constellations, delighted by the sudden twist, began to pour in their favor. A few constellations are preparing themselves to gift their coins. Some constellations want to see the revenge take place. Constellations who love the Colosseum are preparing their coins. They're even creating plots for the constellations, someone marveled, as Kim Dokja rewrote the story of the cage from a slaughter into a reckoning. Spark. Whoosh. The tables turned. The men who thought they had captured fresh meat found the whole arena turning against them, the exploited rising against their exploiters exactly as they had in Gumho Station long ago. Kim Dokja had done it again, refusing to simply fight his way out, instead handing the oppressed the truth and the courage to reclaim their own dignity. Hey, wait, you, an executive cried as the revolt spread. It was the same lesson the reader taught everywhere he went, that the strong preyed on the weak only as long as the weak believed they had to kneel. And then, in the middle of the chaos, the captors brought in one more prisoner, and Kim Dokja's eyes widened. We've got some fresh meat, they crowed, dragging in a new captive. Hey, she's quite a looker. Let's put on a new show with her. Is that, Kim Dokja thought, staring. Because he knew that face. Hey, let's put on a new show with her, the executives leered. This is going to be great. The woman they had captured, the one they meant to throw into the cage next, was no stranger. The plagiarist, Swyong Han. Swyong Han. The fake king, the con artist who had schemed her way through the War of Kings, the woman who had stolen the beginning of the story and called herself an author. Now she was a captive in a corporate coliseum, about to be thrown to the constellations for sport. And Kim Dokja, who had every reason to leave her to her fate, found himself face to face with her once more, in the ruins of the company that had once owned them both. Kim Dokja had been scattered to the lowest place of his old life, the workplace that had ground him down, only to find it transformed into a monument to everything wrong with the apocalypse, the corporate kings running a coin farm on human blood, the constellations paying to watch the slaughter, the exploited forced to become killers. And he had done what he always did, turning the tyrant's game against them, handing the oppressed their courage back. Now the plagiarist Swyong Han hung in the captor's grip, the coin farm was in revolt, and the 10 days before the fifth scenario had only just begun. The loneliest reader in the world stood in the ruins of Mino Soft, an unbreakable resolve in his heart and a dead phone in his pocket that held the whole story. His story, as always, was only just beginning. Kim Dokja's old coworker had built a business out of human suffering, a cage where the weak were forced to kill each other while gods paid to watch. And he offered Kim Dokja a partnership, comparing it, with a proud grin, to the way their old company used to squeeze money out of players. It was the ugliest offer of the apocalypse. And the way Kim Dokja answered it would earn him more coins than the coin farm had ever made, by proving that heroism sells better than cruelty. The plagiarist Swyong Han hung in the captor's grip, and Kim Dokja weighed her worth. She's not bad, he thought. Aside from me, she knows the most about this world. The scenario has changed a lot, so a lot of what she knows is useless now. But still. She was a con artist and a thief, but she was also a reader, and readers were rare. Is that, he wondered, studying her? She hasn't done anything yet. Of course not, all the constellations have their eyes on this place. Mr. Yun made his offer, and it was a bargain soaked in blood. Dokja, he said, if you promise me one thing, I can give her to you. How about it? You seem to be fairly well equipped yourself. You belong to a group, right? Introduce me to them. We're preparing to expand our forces. In return, He would trade Swyong Han like livestock in exchange for Kim Dokja's connections. But Kim Dokja had no interest in the deal. I want you to put a stop to this, he said. I want you to let these people go. And Mr. Yun's face twisted with old resentment. Come on, Dokja, he said. What do you think you're saying? You should know better than this. We've known each other for a long time. It's not like to say something like that. Then he reached for the cruelest weapon he had, Kim Dokja's loneliness. You were always wearing those dark clothes, he sneered, and your only friends were me and a couple of your colleagues. Only people like Sangha tried talking to you at times. You were always reading that web novel. He mocked the man Kim Dokja used to be, the isolated office drone who escaped into a story no one else read. But that story had made Kim Dokja the most dangerous person in the apocalypse, and Mr. Yun had no idea. Then Mr. Yun revealed the true horror of his operation, and it was a savage piece of satire. I'm just like you, Dokja, he said. We were in the QA department together. Do you remember what the others called us at work? Lab rats. Good-for-nothing game testers who have nothing better to offer. But look at them now. He gestured at the captured survivors in the cages. They're the people who used to look down on us. Do you know how much coin we earn with them? We rack in 5,000 coins daily. We earn 5,000 coins without having to clear any scenarios. And then the line that laid the whole thing bare, this is exactly what our company did for the game monetization models. Because the coin farm was nothing new. It was the same predatory machine Mr. Yun had helped build in his old job, squeezing value out of the trapped and the desperate, only now the currency was blood instead of money. The apocalypse had not created his cruelty. It had simply removed the last restraints on it. And Kim Dokja could not stomach it. He said, staring at the cages, the exploited, the gods paying to watch. I can't do it anymore. Glare. The reader who had toppled tyrants and refused thrones would not stand in a slaughterhouse and haggle over lives. That pathetic, Mr. Yun scoffed, he's ruined it. Hey. There is a better way. Some constellations are disappointed by the turn of events. If it's coins you're after. But Kim Dokja was done listening. Blade of Faith has been activated. Slash. He cut the cage open. What the hell are you doing? Mr. Yun screamed. Why did you break the cage? And this, too. Clang. Kim Dokja tore through the bars, freeing the captives one after another. And, this, also. Because he had realized something the coin farmers never understood, the constellations were bored of the cage fights. What the constellations really loved was a story. And Kim Dokja was about to give them the best story of all. For creating a situation that the constellations would really love, the system reported, as the reader freed the slaves and turned on their masters. The executives panicked. Get him, they cried. But Kim Dokja moved through them like judgment itself, cutting them down without killing, the king of no killing carving through the corporate tyrants who had made a business of misery. Aya. My leg, one screamed as the reader disabled him. And the constellations went wild, not for the slaughter, but for the rescue. The demonic judge of fire is happy with your decision. The prisoner of the golden headband chuckles at your merciless vengeance. Many constellations who were displeased with the actions of some constellations are satisfied with your action. You have been gifted 8,000 coins. 8,000 coins, in a matter of moments. Why bother making a farm, Kim Dokja thought, when it's this easy to earn coins? He had earned more by freeing the captives than the coin farm had made all day by torturing them. Heroism, it turned out, was the better business. Then he came to Swyong Han. She hung limp in her captor's grip, seemingly unconscious. But as he approached, her eyes flicked open. You were awake, he said. I was pretending to be passed out, she admitted, so I could kill them all at once when their guards were down. Even captured, the con artist had been playing her own game. Out of health and mana, though, the system noted. Her scheme had run out before it could start. What do you think you're doing? She asked as Kim Dokja moved to free her. And here came the oldest cliché of all, and Swyong Han called it out. If you save me, she warned, all the constellations in your channel will leave. Don't you know they hate seeing things drag on? There are some who like it. So do you want me to save you or not? But Kim Dokja saved her anyway. A constellation who has been looking forward to a harem claps his hands in anticipation. A constellation who lives by the enemy of the enemy is a friend is happy. Even the gods placed their bets on the rescue. This is a cliché, you know that right, Swyong Han said as he pulled her free. The hero who saves a beauty in distress. I thought you didn't like clichés. And Kim Dokja gave the answer that was pure him. You're wrong about two things, he said. 1, I'm not a hero. Because saving her was not heroism. It was arithmetic. Karma points are required to use the effects of the king of no killing, he knew. I gain a point whenever the system decides that I've saved someone. This means that Swyong would have died if I left her there. You have saved the life of someone of your own species. Your karma point has increased by 1. Current karma points, 54 out of 100. He needed karma to fuel his immortality, and saving her fed the crown that kept him alive. And 2, he added. You're no beauty, he said flatly. It was the pettiest possible correction, and it landed perfectly. Let me down, Swyong Han shrieked, indignant. Ah! Thud. He dropped her unceremoniously. I didn't mean like that, she sputtered. Fight with me, you love clichés. The reunion of the reader and the con artist was as absurd as it was deadly, two people who had schemed against each other across a whole war, now bickering in the ruins of a coin farm. But Kim Dokja had a plan for her, and it was not friendship. I've set the stage for you, he said. But holding hands with a former enemy of mine is much too passé, even for me. And that's why. We're going to quickly get this over with and move on to the next stage. It's too late for you to try and look cool now. He would use her, work with her for exactly as long as it served him, and no longer. The two former enemies, the reader and the plagiarist, turned to face what remained of the Colosseum together, an alliance of pure convenience forged in the wreckage of Kim Dokja's old life. The sub-scenario still ran its quiet clock. Sub-scenario, survival activities. Survive in the ruined city for 10 days. Eat 3 meals a day, sleep for 6 hours every night, pay a survival fee. Duration, 10 days. 10 days until the 5th scenario, 10 days to gather strength and reunite his scattered friends and prepare for the catastrophe he knew was coming. Kim Dokja had walked into the ruins of his old workplace and found it transformed into a monument to exploitation, his own co-worker running a coin farm on human blood and comparing it, proudly, to the predatory business they had once served. And he had answered it the only way he knew how, breaking the cages, freeing the captives, and proving that a story of rescue was worth more to the watching gods than any slaughter. He had earned a fortune in coins, saved a former enemy for the karma his crown required, and set his sights on the next stage. The loneliest reader in the world stood in the freed Colosseum beside the plagiarist Swyong Han, an unbreakable blade in his hand, in 10 days until the world tried to end again. His story, as always, was only just beginning. The Dakibi had destroyed the throne and scattered Kim Dokja's people to teach him a lesson. And now the reader would learn it. Because when he freed a cage full of prisoners, expecting gratitude, they turned on each other instead, clawing over scraps like animals. This was the true meaning of a world without a king, and it was uglier than any tyrant Kim Dokja had ever faced. The Colosseum fell. Stab. Kim Dokja cut down the last of the corporate executives who had run the coin farm, and the fight was over. The rewards aren't too bad, he thought, checking his gains. You have received a total of 10,400 coins. Even Mr. Yun, the co-worker who had led him here, met his end in the chaos he had helped create. Ha, I knew it, the man laughed bitterly at the last. And Kim Dokja felt no triumph, only a weary recognition. I knew this was who you truly were, he thought. I should have realized when I first heard those rumors. The man he had once shared a rooftop with had become a slaver, and the apocalypse had only revealed what was always underneath. Swyong Han watched him with her sharp, knowing eyes. He sure talks a lot for a bit-part actor, she remarked of the fallen Mr. Yun. Then, catching Kim Dokja's expression, what's with that look? Are you sad that he's dead? No, he said. But something in him was troubled, and it was not grief for Mr. Yun. It was the question of what came next for all the people he had just freed. He gathered new strength from the ruins. Item, old gentleman's suit, the system reported. A B-grade armor worn by an old gentleman. It may be old, but it's still clean. Its defense stat isn't too high, but it'll be better than the robe of the great monk Samyang, Kim Dokja judged, claiming the new armor. I know even better, he thought with a small smile. I'm a reader, remember? Once again, his knowledge of the whole story let him find exactly the right gear, treasures others would have overlooked. And saving the captives fed his crown. You have saved the life of someone of your own species, the system noted. Your karma point has increased by 1. Current karma points, 25 out of 100. Every rescue strengthened the immortality of the king of no killing. Then he turned to the freed survivors, and gave them their chance at a new life. There are still plenty of items, he told them, so help yourselves. Head toward Chungjiangno if you can. There may be people there who can help. He was pointing them toward safety, toward the allies who could shelter them, offering the exploited a path to freedom. It should have been a happy ending. It was not. Because the moment the cages opened, the freed prisoners fell upon the loot like beasts. Items, one shouted. That's mine, let go. I got to it first. Did you just hit me? Smack. I got to it first. The people Kim Dokja had just saved from slaughter immediately began beating each other over scraps, the same cruelty that had caged them now boiling out of them the instant they were free. And Kim Dokja stood in the middle of it, watching humanity tear itself apart, and understood at last what the Dakibi had wanted him to see. Is this what that Dakibi wanted to show me, he thought. A world that has spiraled out of control. Because this was the goblin's revenge, sharper than any monster. It had scattered Kim Dokja's people and thrown him into this pit not just to hurt him, but to prove a point. The laws and principles we lived by, he realized, and the trust we had in humanity, was all futile. Without a king, without authority, without the thin structures of the old world, people did not become free. They became savage. This was the world without a king. The Dakibi had crowned him king of the world without a king precisely so it could show him what such a world truly looked like, not a utopia of freedom, but a jungle of the desperate preying on the desperate. But Kim Dokja refused to accept that as the final truth. Are you all animals? He demanded of the brawling survivors. Are you trying to get yourselves killed? And instead of ruling them by force, he did what he always did. He taught them. Get a hold of yourselves, he said. Use your head if you want to survive. You have enough weapons and essentials now. Picking up a few extra items here isn't going to make you stronger than that guy. He tried to make them see past the scraps in front of them to the danger ahead. You need to stick together, he told them, not kill each other. And here he passed on the wisdom of the hero he had followed for a decade. Until you're sure that you're undefeatable, he told them, find yourself some trustworthy allies. That's just common sense. Because these were the very words Yu Junghyuk had once given to the survivors who came to him asking for advice. This is what Junghyuk said, Kim Dokja knew, to the survivors who came to him asking for advice. The reader was handing down the regressors' hard-won lesson, that in this world, no one survived alone, and the strong who stood together outlasted the strong who stood apart. Who knows if you'll run into people like them again, he warned. You need to stick together, not kill each other. It was the opposite of the world without a king, a plea for the trust the Dakibi had declared futile. Then the plagiarist trailed after him, and their strange partnership resumed. Why are you following me? Kim Dokja asked. You're plagiarizing your own lines now, Swyong Han shot back, throwing his own words at him. I didn't copy anything, that's from my novel. Then why are you running away? He pressed. Wait, why are you chasing me? She won't admit that she plagiarized the novel, he thought. Because Swyong Han still insisted her stolen story was her own, defending her theft even now. I helped you, she reminded him, so you still owe me. Lend me your power bank if you have one. I'm sure you have plenty. I don't have any more, he said. I lost them all in Guangwaman. His phone, the phone that held the complete novel, was still dead, and he had no way to charge it. Then let me have a look at your novel, she said. No, he answered, you'll have to pay for it if you want to read it. Hey, what are you doing? How am I supposed to do that when all the servers are down? But her interest in his phone alarmed him, because of a terrible possibility. What if the file is like mine, he thought, and can only be read by her? Because his own copy of 3 Ways to Survive the Apocalypse was invisible to the constellations and Akibi. If Swayong Han could read it, she was something more than an ordinary con artist. I can read them, she said. And the fear sharpened. She could read the untouchable file. She was a reader on a level almost no one else could reach. And then Kim Dokja turned her own novel against her, and found something chilling. Because Swayong Han carried her plagiarized work, SSSSS grade infinite regressor, and when Kim Dokja examined it, the resemblance was not just close. It was exact. You really must not have a conscience, he told her. The character profile is an exact copy of the one in 3 Ways to Survive the Apocalypse. You could have at least changed things around. They're completely different, she protested. Yeah, whatever, he said. Then what about the name of the main character? Because 3 Ways to Survive the Apocalypse refers to them as supporting constellations, but her novel called them sponsors, and there was even a typo, the hero's name misspelled as Jungian. If the author of 3 Ways to Survive the Apocalypse sees this, he thought, The plagiarism was so precise, so intimate with the original, that it raised a question Kim Dokja could barely voice. How did Swayong Han know the story this well? What was her true connection to the novel that had become his world? Meanwhile, far away, another thread of the story moved. Yu Junghya quietly turned on his status window, wanting to check out a skill he had just obtained. The Eye of the Enlightened. I finally have the Eye of the Enlightened, the Supreme King thought. I've gotten lucky this round. Junghyik smiled as he read his status window. The strongest man in the world had gained a rare and powerful skill, and even the grim regressor allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The pieces of the story kept moving, each character growing stronger, each life bending further from the script Kim Dokja remembered. And the wider board loomed in Kim Dokja's mind, the other readers scattered across the world. Anna Croft, who is supported by a nebula, he thought. Ranveer Khan of India, and Fei Hu from China. That's about all I can think of. Because Kim Dokja was not the only one who knew too much. Across the planet, other prophets and readers were rewriting their own corners of the apocalypse, and one day their paths would cross his. That finding trustworthy allies is the key to survival, he reminded himself, the same lesson he had just given the survivors. So he bound Swayong Han to him, carefully, with a contract. Using the item, temporary pledge, he drew up the terms. Dokja Kim and Swayong Han will be under a contract until the end of the current sub-scenario. Both parties will take turns sleeping to bother the sleep penalty. Swayong must follow Dokja's orders, and the contract will be void the moment either breaks it. It's not as binding as a support contract, he thought, but this will be perfect for now. Do you think I'd sign something like this? Swayong Han balked. I'm not forcing you, he said. And why do I have to follow orders? I've never done that ever in my life. That's great, there's a first for everything. Damn it. Okay, I'll sign it, she relented. But under one condition. What is it? And her condition revealed exactly how alike they were. "We have to share our intel," she said. "I have a lot I want to ask you. And you better not lie." Because Swyong Han wanted the same thing Kim Dokja wanted, the truth about the other person who knew the story. "Sign here," he said. Using item, temporary pledge. The contract sealed, binding the reader and the plagiarist together in an uneasy alliance of mutual suspicion. But she came armed. "We have to share our intel," she repeated, activating a skill of her own. Character Swyong Han has activated the skill lie detection. She would know if he lied to her. And Kim Dokja, realizing she had the same tool he so often used, felt the ground shift beneath him. "I have the lie detection skill," she warned. And so a standoff formed between two readers, each holding a lie detector, each hiding how much they truly knew. Just what the hell, Kim Dokja thought, studying the woman whose plagiarism was too perfect, whose file could not be read by gods, whose knowledge of the story ran impossibly deep. "Is your attribute?" Because Swyong Han was no ordinary con artist, and the mystery of who she really was had just become the most important question in the apocalypse. The sub-scenario ticked on. Survival activities. Survive in the ruined city for 10 days. 10 days until the fifth scenario, 10 days to reunite his scattered friends, 10 days to unravel the mystery of the woman now bound to his side. Kim Dokja had seen the true face of the world without a king, a world where freedom curdled into savagery, and he had answered it not with a crown but with a lesson, urging the desperate to trust one another instead of tearing each other apart. He had bound a plagiarist whose secrets ran deeper than he could yet guess, and somewhere the Supreme King smiled over a new power while readers across the world moved their own pieces. The loneliest reader in the world stood in the ruins of his old life, an unbreakable blade at his hip, a dead phone full of the future in his pocket, and a lie detector pointed at his heart. His story, as always, was only just beginning.